Welcome to the Vipassana at Home 10-day basic course. I want to make this video to share a few tips about the meditation postures that we will use during the course. We will work with the walking meditation and the sitting meditation. And of course, these are open suggestions. If you already have your own way of walking or your own way of sitting, feel free to use that. The first thing to say with meditation posture is that the posture is really such an important part of our practice. The posture itself is the practice in some traditions, for example in the Zen tradition. And our meditation posture really reflects our attitude towards the practice. If we have a posture that's very sloppy and slumped over and lazy, this will also create a sloppy, lazy, kind of heavy attitude towards the practice. If we have a meditation posture which is very stiff and tight and we're trying to have it super perfect and be very tense doing it, then likewise our mind will also be quite tense as we are meditating. And so we really want to find this balance in our meditation posture, how to be still in the posture, how to be alert, how to be attentive, but at the same time being relaxed, being open, spacious. The setup of our space, because we are practicing both walking and sitting meditation, we want the walking meditation space to be quite close to the sitting space. So for the walking meditation, ideally we have a few meters of space. It's not so important how much space exactly. We can just do it with 3 meters, with 5 meters, around there. And then we of course have our meditation cushion or the space where we will do our sitting posture. So for our walking meditation, I will start by standing at the start of my line. So let's say if this is my 5 meters of space that I have for walking meditation, I start by standing here. And it's nice to be either with socks or barefoot, not walking with shoes. This way we can feel the sensations a little bit more in our feet, in our legs. Then my eyes are also important during the walking posture. So the eyes should kind of be a little bit downcast. Pick a point somewhere in the space below eye level, but also not too far down, so not looking at the feet. So you kind of want to look a little bit down. And the eyes are quite important. We try not to let the eyes wander and look around the room, as this will just cause us to start getting distracted, thinking about, looking at things. We want to keep the eyes still, just as we keep the body still. I like to cross my hands. I like to hold my hands together. So I like to kind of hold and clasp one wrist with the other wrist and hold them in front of me. You can also clasp them behind your back if that's comfortable for you. And it's a very light grip. I'm not gripping like I'm holding something. It's a very loose, really kind of the minimum amount that you need to hold. Our posture in standing should be nice and relaxed. There's not a tense kind of stance, like I'm trying to hold something perfectly or being like a soldier, but I'm also not slumping too much. But there's a kind of relaxed, upright alertness. The tip of the head is being slightly pulled towards the ceiling. If you do yoga, you maybe know this from yoga, this kind of image. The spine is nice and long. And this is how we start with standing. And we're going to use labels, right goes touch. And I can really make the steps quite small. So if you're going to make really big steps, it's going to be quite difficult to balance as you walk. So really very small steps, even they can be like this, just half a foot or something. We're not trying to get anywhere with our meditation. Every step is equal, every step is the same. And as I keep doing this, as I get to the end of the walking line, I come to standing. I take a moment to stand, and then I just turn on the spot, 1 foot at a time, keeping the gaze low, keeping the body still. And I find myself at the beginning again of the next walk. And so on it continues. So at the end of our walking meditation, after the gong goes, 30 minutes is up, wherever you are in the walk, maybe you're here where you started, maybe somewhere over here, doesn't really matter. You hear the gong and you have some time to transition towards the sitting posture. And in this transition, it's also important to not interrupt the meditation, to not start scratching and doing things, but this transition is really also part of the meditation. So we slowly, mindfully make our way to the seat. There's 3 main different ways that we can sit. So we can sit with a meditation cushion in a cross-legged position. We can sit with a chair. We can sit in the kneeling posture. So I'm just going to show a little bit about all of these, and you can kind of decide for yourself what works best for you. The kind of main way is to sit cross-legged. To sit cross-legged in the Burmese style posture. If you can also sit in half lotus. Then there's also the kneeling posture, which you can use, where you want to elevate a little bit more the hips, and you can kind of sit something like this. It's also quite easy to keep the spine straight in this posture. And if those 2 are not available to you, maybe if you have some knee injury or some back problems, it's also completely fine to sit on a chair. So actually I had a knee operation a few months ago, and I was meditating mainly on chairs for the last few months. So for the chair, it's nice to use some cushion maybe. And here you can just sit away from the back support. So we don't want to be leaning back in the chair. We want to be upright in the chair with the feet flat on the floor. Talking a little bit more about the cross-legged posture, which is my personal favorite. The important thing in all the sitting postures actually is to have an upright spine. So not to find the kind of middle way between slouching and being too tense. So just like in the walking, it feels a little bit like there's a little string pulling up from the back of the head to the ceiling, to the sky. And at the same time, there's a kind of loosening, a relaxing down into the ground. So you're kind of rooting down into the earth and lifting up, opening to the sky. The eyes during our sitting meditation can either be closed or they can be slightly downcast, looking at a point in front of you. Some people find that quite distracting to have the eyes open. Sometimes it helps if you are quite sleepy to open up the eyes a little bit, let in some light. Mainly I like to meditate with eyes closed. And the hands. So the hands, there's different ways, different traditions have different ways of saying. You can keep them on your knees, you can keep them open. You don't have to make any kind of special mudra. You can keep them in your lap. Sometimes there's a nice little shelf in your pants where you can put them, or you can cross them. It's really not too important for this tradition. Sometimes even to put a little cushion, you can rest them on the cushion, can be nice. different ways. There's no perfect way. Find what works for you, what feels good to you, and then stick to that so that you don't keep shifting and fidgeting, but find your way and stick with that. You can also support your knees, so if there's some inflexibility or if you're not used to sitting, sometimes you can get some stiffness, or it might be painful when you sit down to meditate. So it can be helpful. Also now with my still recovering knee, I'm using just something underneath that weak knee just to prop that up a little bit, and that way it doesn't put so much strain, so much torsion into the knee. You can do that also with both sides, no problem. And that is a really nice position to sit in. Also a note to the cushion that we're sitting on, the meditation cushion. Some of you might have something like this, some meditation cushion. This is kind of made out of some beans inside, but it's not necessary to have this. So you can also use a few different pillows. You can use a folded up blanket. There's really countless options, and for example when I'm traveling I just use what is available to me, some kind of cushions. It's also nice to have something a bit softer underneath, so not to sit on the hard floor, but here I'm sitting on a carpet. You can also use a doubled up yoga mat, you can use a folded blanket. Find your ways that you want to make yourself comfortable. A really helpful thing is elevating, the reason for the meditation cushion is that we are elevating the pelvis. So this elevation of the pelvis helps us to not use so much muscular tension to try and sit upright. So if I try and sit like this, it's okay for some time, but I'm noticing there's a little bit of tension in my hip flexors that I'm using. So that's why we elevate the hips. Sometimes a little bit is okay, sometimes you need a little bit more, whatever works for you. And it's also nice to sit kind of at the front of the cushion, and maybe even almost to feel that your pelvis is sliding off the front of the cushion. And this really just helps to tilt your pelvis slightly forwards so you relieve the lower back. If you are sitting more back, you might feel that you are needing a lot of tension to hold the spine straight. But if you feel like if you start here and slide off the front a little bit, then your pelvis can kind of just rotate forward slightly and help your spine to stay nice and upright and straight. There is really no one rule when it comes to meditation posture. You have to find a little bit of what works for you. Sometimes it's going to be different day by day. But the one thing that I want to mention in general for your meditation posture is that it is kind of your commitment to the practice. Your commitment to the practice, the way you show up in your posture, the way you set up your posture in the beginning of the session is going to really reflect how committed and how you are within that session, within the half an hour, within the 1 hour meditation. And with that, we also try to minimize the amount that we move in the posture. So say I set up my sitting posture. Once I set that up, I really try to make myself comfortable, but I commit then to holding this posture. And if it really gets painful and unbearable, I'm not trying to torture myself with sitting through immense pain at this point. But if I really need to move, for example, my knee, I will do so very slowly, very carefully, not to interrupt. So maybe I take some support. and I'm just doing it slowly and aware of the movement. And don't have a knee-jerk reaction, oh my god, it's too much, I need to fidget and shift. This will bring you out of the concentration, the mindfulness. So we do it aware, slowly. You might change the leg which is in front, but we really try to minimize these extra movements. It's also the same thing for walking. So when we are walking, I set up my posture, and I don't try to fidget too much here. And I try to resist the urge to scratch, to look around, to keep changing my hands because I'm nervous. So these are all, the body is manifesting the state of the mind, of nervousness, of restlessness. So we also try to keep this stillness in this continuity, just like we do in the actual meditation.